And from here on out, we are into the movie era. Yeah. Welcome to, again, my Star Wars Legends, Star Wars EU, the expanded universe, only redubbed Legends because Disney says it's not good enough to be considered canon, and it's too convoluted, so we're gonna wipe the slate clean so we could have canon for 5 years, right? 2014, 2015, 16, 17, 18, no, like, it's been a little bit more. I'm tired, it's hot, excuse me, whatever. Disney's had the rights to Star Wars for a while. And already their continuity is not sticking. 30 years the expanded universe was. Over 30 years. And they seem to be doing their stuff right. But anyway, we're going to get to it. This is the final book in the A.C. Crispin Han Solo trilogy. And one thing I have to say, I'm really happy that I read those 80s Lando Calrissian trilogy and the Brian Daley Han Solo trilogy. In fact, this entire book is dedicated to him, this final one, Rebel Dawn. So, I'm pretty much going to get into spoilers, but I'll tell you when. I think I'm good for a little bit, because I have to tell you more than you get it, but here's the thing, just so you know, episode 4 isn't going to be talked about, because I watched it as soon as I finished the book. So, it's been so long since I've watched episode 4. Oh my goodness, so good. That's all I'm going to say. It's not a review for episode 4, but oh my goodness. So, timeline-wise, it's kind of weird, wonky. If you were super OCD like me, and I went through this a second time, which I probably will do, part of this book takes place before the Brian Daley trilogy. Part of this book takes place during the Brian Daley trilogy. And then the rest of the book, almost halfway through, takes place after. So the beginning of the book starts off not right where we left off, but basically soon after. At the epilogue to the Hutt's Gambit, Han Solo said, I'm going to get that. I'm going to get that ship. It's going to be my ship. And he goes to Cloud City because he knows that Lando is just going to be there, that there's a Sabacc tournament going on. And he's going to win that ship. And what do you know? The beginning of the third book, that's where he's at. He's at the place to win the tournament. And what do you know? He does. And he wins the Millennium Falcon. And so, pretty much after that, we get to the first half of the book, essentially, which is essentially, well, so, if you remember, in the Hutt's Gambit, I don't even know if I mentioned it, but, it's weird, because Han had this older lady that he was kind of, like, having feelings for, and then there was this black lady named, or African American, don't kill me, Sala, who he was dating. I mean, they were together. They never wanted to do anything serious. They go on this run to go do something or another. I kind of forget. But they decided to race, and she gets caught. I think it was a black hole. I'm not exactly sure. It was something like crazy. But Han saves her. And she's like, I want to get married. And Han's like, but you never even said you loved me. You want to get married? And that continues to be a thing. And she really doesn't care about what he wants or even asks. She's just like, I'm going to marry you. And when he asks her, do you love me? She won't even say it. He's like, obviously I do. But she didn't say it. So that leads Han to go and leave for a bit, and he goes to the corporate sector, which is where all 3 books by Brian Daley take place. Star's End, Revenge, and Lost Legacy. So basically, for the first half of this book, Han's off in the Brian Daley trilogy that you can read, and we get to see all the characters that are A.C. Crispin's No, I mean, not all of them are hers, created specifically, but we get all the characters that have been in these books created by her, and we get to focus on their perspectives on stuff that was going on during those books. So we have Bria and her whole thing with the Rebel Alliance. We have a couple bit of stuff with Boba Fett, and more Boba Fett is always a good time. We have the Bestie clan, Hutt Durga, whose father died in the last book, and he's trying to figure out who caused that. We have Jabba and Jelak. I'm probably saying that name wrong, but he was a dude in the second one, and he turned into a female by the third one. Jabba's not liking Jelak too much in this book. We have Terenza again from the first book and the second book, and we have all these characters. We get to see their perspectives throughout the first half of this book, and then finally, by the second half of the book, we finally get to Han returning from the corporate sector. And this is, I mean, I guess I've kind of spoiled stuff, but from here on out, like, just full-on spoilers for the rest of the book. I mean, first half of the book, it's whatever. Second half of the book, I'm spoiling it now, so in case you care. But Bria and Han meet again, and Han is pissy and a jerk and just mean to her because she abandoned him. You know, he was going to take care of her, and she left. And so she eventually, they end up working together, and she wants to storm the place from the first book and free all the slaves, because if she frees all the slaves, more likely than not, they're going to have new recruits for the Rebel Alliance. And so a whole bunch of shenanigans happen within all of that, that you can read about. You should read this book. But there's stuff that happens. But the main thing is that we get to the end of this, and again, I said spoilers, so this is your last warning. There was a kid who lied about being Solo from the second book, which Han Solo knew from the get-go. He knew that he wasn't family, because he was an orphan, remember, so he wouldn't really have a chance to know, but he knew that Jarek was not. But he kept him along anyway because he liked him. And during this, Jarek doesn't make it. And Han says, you earn the name, or whatever. And I wasn't even thinking about it. It only hit me when we were finally on that chapter. I mean, I guess it was kind of obvious because he was super eager to help. But I was like, there's really only two possibilities for Jarek, because he's not in episode 4. Either he leaves and does his own thing, or he dies. And he dies. But after all this is over, Lando also accompanied them on this. You have a bunch of smugglers and privateers, as they were called, that were doing it for the money, that were helping out. And they were being held at gunpoint by the Rebel Alliance. They were supposed to get a treasure to compensate for helping. But the Rebel Alliance had found out about plans for a secret weapon for the Death Star. Well, let me backtrack a bit, because oh my gosh, how did I forget this? So before they do this mission, they go see they go see the cat people again, Marav and Morg, and I always talk real slow, and he loves Han Solo. I don't know, that's how I always imagine it. But we get to see them again, and we have that guy from the first one meet Chewie, and that was really cool, because Morg was like one of my favorite characters from the first book. Like proto Chewie, and it was just really cool to see them meet. But while they're there, that's the place where Han and Bria first really, did stuff like kiss and whatnot. And then they start going at it again. They're a couple again. Back to where I was at. And Han's confused about why all the people are being held up at gunpoint. And she tells him, we need this money, we need this stuff. Because we need all the money we can to fund this what's going to happen here. But she allows Han to take, like one portion. And he says, Han says, I don't care about anybody here. I don't care about anyone, but Lando's my friend, and you're gonna make me betray him. And she's like, if you feel that bad, you can just share a bit of your profit with him, which is what he was planning to do. But so he walks in, and so to Lando, it looks like he knew this from the beginning. He just betrayed him. And they get in there. Terenza's still alive, tries to kill them, and then what do you know? Boba Fett shows up, takes him out, tells him, I'm not here for you. This is a priority assassination. You're not my target today. But he ends up not taking anything, or he takes like one thing they let him take. I don't really remember. Sorry, I just watched episode 4, so that's more fresh in my mind than the book. But then, Lando obviously feels betrayed. And he goes back and sees Jabba, and Jabba asks him to do another, well, actually, he doesn't go back. He's in space. It's like right after. Oh my goodness, a whole big events going on. So, there are these kids that were children of slaves on this planet. And Chewie's like, we gotta save them. Because, like, this place is gonna blow up. We need to take them. So before they leave, they take them. Right. And, I'm sorry, I'm so flabbergasted. I apologize. Han did have something he was going to be allowed to take. Now, he thought Bria was going to go with him. But Bria wasn't going to go. She's loyal to the Rebel Alliance, to destroying the Empire. And so, him and her just, breaks off. And he gets super mad at her again. He's super nasty to her. And he leaves. And then when the kids happen, as I said, they get on the Falcon. Jabba Hollow Images calls, and he's like, I need you to do one last spice run. Can you go? And so he has to take the kids with him. But when he goes, and he boards it up and everything, takes it. But then Imperials come after him. And so he has to eject the spice, and then take the kids back to Corellia. And then he races back to go and try to find the spice that he, jettisoned out. But it's a trap. They already picked it up. And they're waiting to see if he would come back for it so they can find him guilty. And so he has to outrun them. And this is where we get that, throwaway line from the movie where he says, I made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs. Because he does that in this book. It was really cool. And then, Jabba's not happy about it. And he ends up going to Tatooine because he has to for episode 4. In fact, this book ends basically where he gets introduced in episode 4. But before that happens, we have a perspective from Bria, and she's doing another mission, and her old team bite the bucket. I thought she was just going to keep being the Rebel Alliance, and we just didn't see her anymore. I didn't think they'd kill her off, but they did. And then we get to Boba Fett shows up, because in this book, during the middle time when Han was in the Brian Daley trilogy, Bria was on the ship where she met Lando for the first time, and Boba Fett was supposed to take her to Terenza, but a bunch of shenanigans happened. You can read the book if you care enough. That made him not get her. But when she thought she was going to be captured, she asked him to tell her dad that she's gone. Can you do that for me? And he said he would. And Boba Fett always keeps his word. Problem is, Bria never gave her a name. Gave him a name. Bria never gave Boba Fett a name. So, Boba Fett goes to Han and tells her, She's dead. I know you know her father, and you can send a message for me, because I always keep a promise. And, so he does. He makes a call to her dad and lets her know that she fought bravely and she's gone. And then the epilogue essentially is that he's in the cantina, and he goes to see the boy and the old man and the two droids, and episode 4, at least from where Han shows up, begins. This book was so good. I loved it. I liked Brian Daley's trilogy. I thought it was really fun. There were like a bunch of, like little adventures like going on with Han. Oh, it's another thing I loved about this book. Because before he like does the Sabacc game with Lando, I don't even remember when it happens, but Lando talks about his adventures with Wu Fi-Ra, and how Wu Fi-Ra left and stuff. It was just great because I spent so much time reading those, and to have him talk about it with Han was just so cool, and it just made it so worth reading it, because that's such a thing. This was the MCU before the MCU. I mean, the continuity's great. I love it, and I haven't even read everything, but it's so good. I love it. But anyway, since I just watched episode 4, something that hit me harder than I think it would have, just watching the movie alone. And that's why I think Matt Wilkins, who you should definitely subscribe to, is on point with the expanded universe, because I've always liked Star Wars. I've liked episode 4, 5, and 6. I watched them when I was little. I watched them on DVD. Prequels are technically my time, but I was still super little when those came out. It took until I got older to, they were already on, before they would have, when they first released, they would have been on VHS, but I was too little. So the first time I really remember remembering things from it was when they had, releases on DVD. But now, having gone through some of the expanded universe, I think I'm in love with the expanded universe. Like, the movies are good. They're great. Fun. But I think what enriches them, what makes them surpass what they actually are, is these books. Because the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm like, Harrison Ford, that Han. I was watching it on Disney Plus. I paused the movie during the Greedo scene, and I found the 1970s clip on YouTube. And I watched him shoot Greedo first, like he should. And the whole thing with that is that we are berated in this book over and over and over and over and over again. Bria either thinks it or says it out loud, that Han could be more than a smuggler. He could join the Rebel Alliance. He's already been in the military. He'd be a great leader. He'd be a great help. And she says it a lot in her head, fantasizing about them being together and helping defeat the Empire. And then she says it to him a bunch, out loud, to his face. But he wants nothing to do with that. He doesn't want to get in that kind of danger. He only cares about himself and Chewbacca. And Bria till, he felt betrayed. Oh my gosh, that's another thing. There's so much to talk about. This is the longest video for this expanded universe thing that I've ever done. Oh, that scene with Lando. So, let me just finish my thought. I'm so sorry. This is so scatterbrained. There's just so much to talk about. But in the movie, Leia even tells him, "Is this all you are? Smuggler doesn't care about anything?" And of course, Luke, hopeful Luke, great, amazing Luke, who totally wouldn't try to kill his nephew in his sleep like he does in the sequel trilogy. He says, "No, I think you're more than that. I think you could be better. I think you can do more. I don't think you'll abandon us." And he hammers in the same point that Bria was making. And Han's like, no, I'm not getting involved. I'm going home. I helped you. You're at the rebel base. I'm going home. And the whole time, like, I didn't cry or anything, but felt my eyes hurting. Because Bria died in the last book, in Rebel Dawn. And the last way he talked to her was not positive. So if you think about that when watching the movie, then this whole adventure with Luke, Obi-Wan, and Leia has got to be weighing on him. Thinking, hearing the same thing after Luke says it, hearing Bria say it again in his head. And, trying to look at it objectively, just episode 4, it is kind of abrupt. Because, yeah, they went through this entire adventure together, but Han's been on multiple adventures with people. Doesn't mean squat. He's not best friends with Luke yet. I'd say more I'd argue, because by episode 5, you're supposed to imagine that quite a few adventures have happened between that time. So they've grown closer together. They've become friends, even though we haven't seen it. Or to imagine that they've done a bunch of missions for the Rebel Alliance, and so they're closer now, they're friends. And then by episode 6, definitely, they're friends. They do a whole adventure just to save Han. But here, they're not really friends. They're about as much as friends. No, sorry, I'll take that back. Apologize for that. I know it's probably going to be a weird cut. Real life. Had to do something real quick. So, but I'm not a professional YouTuber, so it doesn't matter. But yeah. So, not with as much passion as I had. But I almost made a joke saying that they are about as much friends as the sequel trilogy gang. But not, even still, they're not really friends, but they're more friends than the sequel trilogy people were. Because first movie, they're already hugging and stuff at the very least. But the point is, with that, there was, in the movie at least, I feel, and people probably don't even look at it too critically because they put the original trilogy on like a pedestal, and it has to be rightly critiqued as well. And I mean, I guess you can make a case that, he spent time with them and he's like, I should change my ways. But I don't know, watching it through, I didn't really feel that, not from the movie. But if you put the expanded universe in your mind, then Luke's been saying the same thing that Bria's been saying this whole time. Now Bria's dead. He must have that guilt on him because the last thing he said to her was negative. He never got to make amends. She died with his last words being negative to her. And so this boy, that he's at least friendly with, is gonna risk his life to go stop this planet destroying machine. And so, with Brie in his mind and all that, he does. He says, no, I am gonna help. And he helps Luke. He freaking spins Vader out of the way. He shoots the other 2 TIE fighters and makes Vader go fly away, giving Luke the chance to shoot the thing into the Death Star and blow it up. And so, because of that, because of everything that happened in these books, I really feel that contributed to his eventual redemption. I mean, obviously Luke and everything, being the hopeful and positive person that he is. And now we'll get to see where that leads us further. I swear, if you can hear that, I'm going to literally I'm just kidding. But someone's being annoying right now outside. I just can't get a break. I'm just trying to make a freaking video. Longest one I've made, and there's constant distractions. Don't let the dark side cloud my judgment. Anyway, next we got, did I say Choices 1? I was wrong. That's Allegiance, which is the first story we get to find out about Mara Jade. So that's going to be interesting. before I go, there was one thing I forgot to mention. It was really, really, I don't know why, I was like, oh man. This book explains why Lando isn't too friendly with Han in episode 5. Because of everything that happened in this book. You know, Jabba's upset with Han because he let his spice go. He owes him money. And so he asks his friends for loans, and he goes to Lando. And as soon as Lando opens the door, he just socks him in the face. And he just shoves him against the wall. He's like, don't talk to me ever again, essentially. Like, we may have been friends before. That's the only reason I'm not going to kill you right now. We're done. We're nothing. I was oh. It just makes it's going to make episode 5 like, oh, I'm so glad they're friends again, because my gosh, that was rough. But yeah. Brian Daley's trilogy was really good. I loved it. But I have to give it to A.C. Crispin for having, in my opinion, the better Han Solo trilogy. Because we got to see him in his youth. We got to see him meet Lando and Boba Fett and Jabba for the first time. And we had this entire story. It was just really, really good. And I loved it. I think some people don't like Bria. I think some people find her cliche. I loved it. Maybe I'm just a cheesy romantic. I mean, I knew that it wouldn't work out, but I felt for them. And in another life, maybe they would have worked out. But I think it's for the best, because Han and Leia are the best couple. And we'll see more about that later. I do have the courtship of Leia, which is where they finally get married, so that will be fun. But yeah, I've been rambling for over 20 minutes. This is the longest expanded universe story or video that I've done yet. But the heat's getting to me. It's why I mumble and stutter so much and don't know what I'm trying to do. Long story short, this was a fantastic trilogy, a fantastic book. And from here on out, we're post episode 4. We've been BBY, before the Battle of Yavin, and now everything afterwards is going to be ABY, after the Battle of Yavin. The Battle of Yavin was the planet that the Rebel Alliance was on in the movie. And so when Luke blows up the Death Star, it's such a huge cataclysmic, monumental event in the Star Wars universe, like Jesus' death and resurrection, before the death of Christ, after the death of Christ, or before the birth of Christ, whatever. And so it's before the Battle of Yavin, after the Battle of Yavin. But anyway, fantastic series. I love Han, and I can't wait to see what else the expanded universe has in store for me. This has made me fall in love with Star Wars in a way that is quite different than I think I would have before. So interconnected, so... I'm sure not every EU book is really well written, because there's different authors, but from what I've read so far, it's been great. And I can't wait to see what else is in store. Hope you've enjoyed this really long video. If you actually stuck through, props to you. You're number one. And, yeah. May the Force be with you. Peace.